This is Margaret Lee, Special People in Places. We are in Cullman, Alabama on this Veterans Day celebration at Folsom Field. And I am talking to Colonel Casper. Colonel Casper, I understand you have your own plane out here. Tell us about this.
Yes, I do. Blue and gray one back there. It's a Russian Yak-52. It's an aerobatic trainer for the Russian military, and they've exported a bunch of them to the U.S. and there's like 28 of this model in the U.S. at the present time, and I brought it down here for the day. I was supposed to fly, but the weather.
Colonel Casper, how long have you owned that aircraft?
I've owned it for about 5 years, and I've flown it for about 600 hours.
Russian, that just amazes me when you said Russian. Who did you buy it from?
I actually bought it. I bought it from the first owner in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He was the guy who had the airplane imported. And then when it went up for sale, I already knew about the airplane, and I said, I'll come get it. And so we did a deal over the phone one night, and then I went and got the airplane.
Where do you live in Kentucky, did you say?
Yeah, I live in LaGrange, Kentucky, about 20 miles outside of Louisville, Kentucky.
Colonel Casper, you're from Kentucky, but were you born there?
No, actually, I'm a Yankee. I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then went to school in St. Louis, and then I was in the Air Force and moving all around. I ended up in Louisville, Kentucky, or near Louisville, because I got hired by United Parcel Service after I retired, and I flew DC-8s and 747s for them.
Okay, and you said you had some buddies coming in too, but the weather...
You know, the weather has kind of put a damper on any of this stuff. I had 3 more airplanes like that coming down from the Cincinnati, Ohio area, and unfortunately, they got stuck up there with the weather and couldn't get in. I came in a day early, and so I was fortunate to be here. And so my airplane's been tied up all weekend and no flying yet.
Oh my gosh. Colonel Casper, where did you serve, and when did you go into the military? What year?
I started in pilot training in 1964 and retired in 94. And in between, I flew 2 tours of combat in Vietnam. I instructed in Air Training Command in Oklahoma. I taught foreign students in a small fighter in Arizona. I did a test program at Edwards Air Force Base. I flew F-4s and A-10s in England and Germany. And I flew F-16s in Korea. F-15s in Okinawa, and then I went to Singapore to start a flying operation in the Republic of Singapore, and I ended up by closing Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado. And when that base closed, I closed and retired.
Impressive career, Colonel. I know you're very proud, and we're proud of your service, too.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, it's Veterans Weekend, and I think it's important for everybody to remember what the veterans did. It doesn't matter how much or how little, peacetime, wartime, they all did their duty for the country. And on this weekend and, of course, Wednesday, it's their day. So everybody out there, thank a veteran for their service. It'd make me feel good, and it'd make them feel great.
It is. Colonel Casper, now with that impressive military service, did you have time to find a wife and have a family?
I have a wife. I have no children, just a wife, and she's back home in rural Kentucky right now.
All right. I'm talking to Colonel Ken Brown. Now, Ken, explain to us which organization you're with here.
Well, I'm with both the Elks Lodge, that's responsible for putting on the event every year here in Cullman County, and with the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and we participate in it too.
So with your military service, Colonel, where were you? When did you go into the military?
Well, I went in the military in 1965 and came out in 1991, spent 26 years in the Air Force. Loved every minute of it. I'd go back tomorrow if they'd let me, but they don't want old guys like me anymore. But I was stationed in Germany and England, and of course I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I also served forward deployed in the Middle East during the Middle East War in 1973. So I kind of got around the world.
You have, and It would take you hours to tell us all about your experiences, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it probably would, but I don't think you have hours. So I'd just be thankful if people would take an hour or 2 hours out of their busy schedule every year to come out and thank their veterans. That's what we're about today, you know.
And this goes on every year, but now yellow aircraft behind us, that vintage aircraft.
That's a Stearman biplane. It was built by Boeing back in the 1920s, and it was the aircraft used by the Tuskegee Airmen, famous Tuskegee Airmen, to train in pilot training before they went to fly and learn how to fly the P-51. And it's from the Air Museum over in Guntersville, Alabama, and they fly over here every year and they participate in our program. And we have a 95-year-old bomber pilot here that's getting ready to speak today at our program, and he actually flew this in pilot training and graduated from pilot training flying this airplane in September of 1942, a month after I was born.
Oh my gosh, and he's here today.
He's here today. He's 95 years old. He flew 40 bomber missions against the Luftwaffe in the Mediterranean theater, then went on to fly in the Pacific before the war ended, and also served in Korea and Vietnam. So he's quite a guy.
He certainly is. I thought that after 25 bombing missions, they were kind of retired.
Well, he got 40, and he was flying before they came up with the quota of 25. So he had to get 40 before he could come home. But he was flying in the Mediterranean theater, which wasn't quite as high a loss rate as the B-17 Memphis Belle and all those folks flying B-17s in France and Germany.
Now, this year was the first time that the Memphis Belle was coming in, right?
Correct. We're going to try to get them back next year for a nice weather day instead of a bad weather day. We just couldn't get them in here yesterday or today because of all the rain that was coming through. My wife says I'm a control freak, but I can't control the weather, so oh well.
I think you can control everything else, though.
Well, I hope we have a much better turnout. We were expecting 10 to 15,000 people out here this year. And had the Belle been here, I think we would have had and a nice weather, we'd have had a great crowd.
Absolutely. The weather prevented that and the Memphis Belle from getting in.
Correct, yeah. They just, it's a VFR airplane, which means the visual flight rules. They don't have any instruments to be able to land in bad weather. So they're not coming into a small airport like Coleman in the middle of the night without instruments, and I don't blame them because there are old pilots and bold pilots, but there are no old bold pilots.
Oh my. We're disappointed, but there's always next year for that.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And usually here in Coleman, we have a program that goes for the veterans from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5, and we do it in two different venues. We have the Air Force element out here at the airport, and then we have the Army and Marine element and everything down at Sportsman's Lake Park in downtown Coleman. And so we start there in the morning at 9 o'clock with the mayor and everybody else making their speeches. And we had a guest speaker today who is astronaut Bob Stewart. And he came and spoke to us out of Huntsville. And we had NASA and the Space and Rocket Center brought displays down, the Army Missile Command. And so we had a lot going on down at the park this morning. And then out here at the airport, we had an air show and all that, design the Memphis Belle and all that. So, we just did the best we could.
Oh, that's true. We're disappointed with the weather, but like you say, there's always next year, and hopefully get more publicity out there and let people know this is a wonderful idea.
Yeah. Well, I hope your viewers and will come on over to Coleman. We always have it the Saturday before Veterans Day because a lot of veterans in North Alabama like to either go to Birmingham or Huntsville on the holiday itself for the parade and all that. So we try to have ours the Saturday before Veterans Day. So put it on your calendar and come to Coleman next year, the Saturday before Veterans Day.
Oh my, we certainly will. And thank you so much, Colonel Brown.
You're very welcome. Proud to be here.
This is the trainer plane that Colonel Campbell used when he was training pilots for World War II. Lieutenant Colonel Julian Campbell, I've been hearing great things about you, and in retirement, I'm told that you are still playing golf. For a World War II veteran, that is impressive. Is that true? You're still playing golf?
I need a mic. I play 3 or 4 times a week. Now I walk. And I played my 5,000th round at Terry Pines last year.
Oh, my. Well, tell us about your military career. I understand that you flew 40 missions in World War II. Tell us about that.
I just watched that B-17, the Memphis Belle film. I almost cried. I'm old, and it's amazing.
Memories, I'm sure.
It brought back many memories. They flew higher and further into enemy territory than we did on B-26, but they could only had to fly 25 missions. We had to fly 40 missions before we could come home. But I made it.
Oh, my gosh. You are an incredible man. 40 missions. And that was all. I know you were in the Mediterranean. Where else?
I was first based in North Africa, and then inland North Africa, flying on bombing missions to Italy, southern France, and other places. We moved to the shoreline of North Africa to get closer to the enemy, finally to Sardinia, the island of Sardinia, and I flew missions from there to finish my 40 missions. It was fun.
Where were you born, Colonel Campbell?
Down in the country in southwestern Coleman County, Trade, Alabama.
Oh, I didn't realize you were a native of Coleman County.
We live in Coleman. We've been here about 45 years now, almost. So 1970, it's been 45 years ago.
Did you marry before the war or after?
She had to wait for me after the war, Marie.
She is here.
Yeah. I was in the military for about 6 or 7 years during and after World War II. I stayed in 2 years after flying the Trans-Pacific passenger plane, military. I came home and all the girls I'd ever known were married. I had to look for a younger one. But I tell you, she is very honest about her age. But I'm 95 now. But she lies about my age and says she's 7 years younger.
Oh, that is incredible. Did you two have time to have a family?
We have 4 daughters. Someone asked me one time, what's the roughest battle you were ever in? I said, that's easy, raising 4 daughters.
Oh, my goodness. But, so how long have you been married, actually, now?
I'll get it right, Marie, 67 years. Oh. And I was 28 when I got married.
So, it's 68 years.
67.
67 years.
Soon be 68. I'll be 90. I'll be 96 in February.
Okay. How many years did you actually serve before you retired?
28 years.
Okay.
I got out in 1947. Went to school at Howard College, now Samford University. Was recalled active duty during the Korean War. I didn't see accident in Korea, but several years later, I did see accident in Vietnam during the Vietnam War.
That is incredible. You were actually in Vietnam.
For a year, yeah.
Oh, my. I know that was difficult for your wife. What is her name? And maiden name, too.
Marie Hamner.
Okay.
There are Hamners at Arley. I don't know if you...
Oh, yes. I know some Hamners in Arley. Yes, I do. They were a pioneer family in Arley.
You know them, yeah.
Yes. You know now I know, don't you? I can't wait to meet her. That is amazing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say about the military? When you left here, where was your basic training?
My first base was Maxwell Air Force Base, cadet training, Air Force pilot training. I graduated at Napier Field, it was called, at Dothan, Alabama. And then I went to bomber training in Florida and then to combat. And came home and I trained young B-26 pilots for combat for a while. But then I was transferred to the West Coast to fly big 4-engine transport planes across the Pacific during the Japanese War and supporting our troops in the Japanese War.
Okay. Well, so you were not only in the European theater, you were in the Pacific too in World War II.
I made many flights across the Pacific to many places: Hawaii, Johnson Island, Kwajalein, Guam, Philippines, Okinawa, Tenia, and other places supporting the war in Japan after I'd done my bombing missions. Yeah.
Amazing. We thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
We have programs.
Peggy is the daughter of my first cousin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't know we had a TV celebrity in the room with us, but and I'll go ahead and start that up. But a lot of songs for everyone in the back can hear also.
Okay.
All right, but we appreciate you being here and bringing your family, your beautiful wife. Ms. Marie, would you like to come up here with us? I would love for you to be up here with us. That's okay. And as we heard earlier, it's 4 daughters, and so that's great. On this Veterans Day weekend, I'd like to welcome World War II U.S. Army Corps veteran and retired United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Julian Campbell. Let's give him a round of applause. And his beautiful wife, Marie. Yeah, we'll give her a round of applause. Colonel Campbell, before we start about the bombers, can you please tell us when and where you joined the Army Air Corps and where you took your initial pilot training and maybe the aircraft that you were trained in, any of those?
California, when I went into the service, I had a cadet appointment. I had passed what was called a 2-year college equivalence examination for qualifiers in aviation cadet.
And what year was that?
This was 1941, September of 1941. In November, I was notified that I was brought to Kelly Air Force Base to begin pilot training on December 20th. In the meantime, my draft force called me down. I went down with my appointment letter in hand and thinking that this would prevent me from having to be drafted. They said, sorry, we've got to meet a quota. They'll find you. They drafted me on December 1, 1941. And they called me private when I first went in, but I sure didn't feel very private when they made me sleep in a room and use our bathroom with 49 other guys. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor 6 days later after I went in. And like I said, I was in California, but I sent me to Biloxi Air Force Base in Mississippi. And then in January, I went to Maxwell Air Force Base again. Pilot training. Climbing a little Sterling D-17 and a D-13, D-6, and then the bomber. I flew many other flights after that.
It's unreal, the history. Yeah, the history of what all you've done. Tell us about flying the Stearman and how it got its famous washing machine.
That's what it was. Many pilots washed out because of the ground route. When you came in with a steering when the landing gear was too narrow, crosswind, it was very difficult to hold it straight down the runway or down the flying field. It's a solid flying field trained on. Many cadets did ground loop, and that's all it took to wash them out. Fortunately, I didn't. I tried today, I probably ground loop. In 1943, I picked up a B-26 at the plant in Omaha, Nebraska. I was on a flight and caught out. I flew, my first flight brought me over to Raleigh, Alabama. I flew over to school, and she'll tell you about that.
Well,
Let me give this microphone to you. Hang on. Tell us about that flyover.
all of a sudden, a plane came flying over the school that was so low, it must have broken on the roof. The shingles on the roof, I'll tell you. And the whole school ran out. They left their classroom, everybody ran out. And the principal came out, face red, screaming, "Get back in the schoolhouse." But it was really a fun thing. And I knew who it was. I knew Julian. And
Did you tell everybody else who it was, or just keep that to yourself?
well, I had no connection with him, but some of his family I did have.
So you knew.
I knew who he was. But I say I was 7 years younger.
When you were coming up, I was saying that you were younger. My wife's 7 years younger than me too, so it's the same setup. They take care of us, don't they, Colonel?
She was about 15 at the time. I was 23, I guess.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that story.
Yeah, I flew that
Please.
plane down through South America to the point on the eastern side of South America, across to Ascension Island, then out north to Africa, and up to North Africa. Took the plane on that.
But what he didn't tell you was when he was going to fly it over, he didn't have a navigator. They were waiting for a navigator,
Yeah.
and they didn't show it yet.
We were supposed to follow plane with them out there.
And you didn't.
I didn't.
So he said, "Can I just go ahead and take it?"
Yeah.
So they let him go and went on the plane with him, and he said, "You have to go first." He's always been good at direction.
That direction is
So he
yours.
made it.
And I have better sense than that now.
We know better now. Are there any missions that you flew that stand out in your mind more than others?
On one mission, I was literally
Besides the Arley School mission. I said besides the Arley School mission that you flew over there.
Me.
Meek School, I'm sorry, Meek School mission.
I was literally blasted out of formation by a flak person, just to meet my airplane. Like, I was in a formation, an element of six airplanes, but we're in formation of maybe 50 or possibly 80 planes. I was literally blasted out of formation by two wingmen. I had a plane flying on each wing. They moved away to let me fall. Or they'd seen planes go down and knew that I was on my way.
What
Just
happened?
the throttle was forward, the engine restarted beautifully, and I pulled back in formation. And I dropped my bombs and made it back home. We found many holes in the lower fuselage of the airplane and the wings. But we could find no part of the plane that could see the damage.
Get close to the water during those times. Yeah.
I thought I encountered flak on many missions, 40 missions. Enemy fighters. If you've seen that B-17 film, you see fighters come at you. I've watched fighters come at me while final position, and I've seen it sparkle from their machine guns as they try to shoot us down. We sometimes have fighter escort, but both of this is up the road. We didn't help. So we had nose guns, 50 caliber machine guns, top turret guns, tail guns. We shot some of them down. They shot some of us down.
But just Veterans Day in general, today, especially the Veterans Day weekend, what does it mean to you looking back on all that you've accomplished and the missions all the many missions that you went on all over the world? What does it mean to you now?
World War II was the most costly and most destructive war in the history of the world. They say that the destruction rolled out during World War II exceeded all of the previous wars in the highest history of the world. 50 million people were killed around the world in World War II. 50 or more nations were involved in the war. It was dynamic. But
Well, you're a leader, and we know you are, and we appreciate you being here and telling your stories. And I would give you one more opportunity. And really, I'd like to ask you the same thing, but as far as any closing remarks or anything you'll say like to us today, tell anything you'd like to say for us.
most satisfying flights I made were the war ended with Germany on May 7, 1945, and with Japan on September 2, 1945. When the war ended with Japan, I was based on Okinawa with about 80 other secret deployers. I was flying secret deployers around there, foreign transport. The day after the armistice was signed in Japan, we began flying the 1st Airborne Division into Tokyo, began the occupation of Japan. these were enjoyable fights. I made about 3 or 4 of those, Okinawa with the together. Very pleasing fights.
You've been all over the world. Miss Marie, would you like to say anything before we close out, or have anything about maybe his career or supporting someone that was in the military?
Okay, I can say that we did not marry until after World War II.
Right.
So I was not really involved in World War II. But being in the military had some negative problems, you know, because you're in Vietnam and we were there without the daughter, with 2 daughters. We only had 2 daughters. Afterward, we were assigned to different places that were very interesting. We spent 4 years in England, which was very interesting. No combat or anything.
Nice.
And just a nice place to be. England is a very nice place to be. And
We
then
have
we
a visitor from England today, I believe.
yes, they are. And then we, after that, we went to Hawaii. My oldest daughter was coming up to be a senior, and she had a boyfriend she liked very much. She wasn't very happy about that, but she got over that and got used to it, and she graduated from high school in Hawaii, and then went to school, University of Hawaii.
And Robin was born there. You know,
And our youngest daughter, Robin, was born there. So there's a lot of interesting things too.
Well, you're able to see the world and include the military at the same time during the
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up just for a moment. Does anyone have questions in the audience? If you do, please raise your hand. I'll give you a microphone if you want to.
Julian, tell them about the airplane out here on the ramp with the yellow on it that you flew at pilot training.
that big T-17 Stairman. That was the first airplane we flew.
That airplane he's talking about is from the Homer B. Wilson Jr. Vintage Museum. Bill Greenhall's over here with it today, but it's right out on the tarmac. It's out here.
It didn't have instruments. I was out doing loops one day, and I pulled it up and went straight up into a cloud. This was new to me, and I didn't know where I was. Now you don't see anything, then you don't see the horizon. And when I came out of that cloud, I was falling tail first. I was going straight up, stalled out, and was falling tail first. Fortunately, a heavy nose, fell over backwards, and I went diving towards the swamp in Florida and got control and went straight home.
Took a big breath. Any other questions from the audience? We're here to honor